Hi, I'm Mayank Kejriwal, and I'm a research assistant professor at the University of Southern California. And I'm delighted to be talking to you today about knowledge graphs in enterprise. So let's begin with the most obvious question, which is just what is a knowledge graph or KG? So it's one of those things that is just easier to show rather than to actually describe. So it's an intuitive yet structured way to represent knowledge to enable rich AI applications and analytics. So here's a very simple example where you can see knowledge such as, that Bob Dylan's details and, Steve Jobs is a fan of Bob Dylan. Steve Jobs lived in the United States and so on and so forth. So these knowledge graphs can be quite big. They can be very domain specific. And we'll see some cases in enterprise, but they are a very good way for machines to represent knowledge that will allow them to do AI. So why KGs? Well, in a way, I gave the answer already, but one really neat thing about these knowledge graphs is that they offer a very good trade-off between a very structured kind of data set, which is the ideal. I mean, that is what machines really want to do their best work. But on the other hand, there's also the issue of human readability and the fact that in knowledge graphs, a lot of the knowledge comes from human-generated sources, such as natural language. And so it's not that easy to go from a natural language source to a database. And so knowledge graphs kind of offer this trade-off in the middle, where on the one hand, you get human readability and knowledge that is generated by humans in an intuitive fashion. Excuse me. On the other hand, you also get a certain amount of structure, which is what machines want in order to do AI and analytics. In fact, you have already seen a knowledge graph, most likely, if you have used Google or pretty much any other search engine. And once upon a time, when you would actually type a query into Google, such as places to visit, San Jose, you would see a list of web pages. You would not see all the stuff that I have put in orange boxes, but most of this stuff has some connection to the Google Knowledge Graph. And in fact, the Google Knowledge Graph was released, not openly, but integrated with the search engine about 10 years ago. And you can see that it has quite an impact. It has made search quite easier. It's made the search engine much more sticky. We keep coming back to it for our search needs. It's obviously very good for Google's revenues and growth and so on. And so, yes, we have actually seen this before. And here are just some elements that are most likely coming from, in some way or form, from the knowledge graph. And knowledge graphs have been rising, just generally. I mean, in 2018, you can see that they were kind of on the up climb. But when we come to 2020, already we are seeing that ontologies and graphs, which are really, this big area of knowledge graphs, they have already gone through the peak of inflated expectations. They are now approaching the trough of disillusionment. There is no doubt in my mind that if we see the curve today, we might see them somewhere on the slope of enlightenment or even the plateau of productivity. So I would say that, this is a very good time to be looking at practical applications of knowledge graphs. Beyond Google, knowledge graphs have now been adopted in many enterprises. Here are some examples. The Uber knowledge graph, I'm not actually sure. I mean, this is something we heard about in 2019, but I haven't really heard anything much on the Uber knowledge graph. But certainly Amazon has gone big on it. LinkedIn has gone big on it. There's also Wikidata, which is an open knowledge graph, kind of like Wikipedia. And so it's completely open and you can download Wikidata and play with it. Here's just one specific example, which is the knowledge graph in personal assistance in Alexa. This was from a talk that was given by Luna Dong, who was then at Amazon and worked on the Amazon knowledge graph. And so I'm just giving this example to kind of show, how, Amazon has really, also leaped on this and is using a knowledge graph in its products. There are many other applications, everything from text mining to question answering, recommendation systems, summarization, fact finding. So many applications. When some of these were first published, like in the mid 2010s, they were still very much, in the research arena, but now we are seeing many of these in enterprise in some shape or form. One of the things I am working on is actually health informatics and building a health knowledge graph. These are not my papers, but again, these are a set of research papers that sort of show you how important this problem has become and how challenging it is to build a health knowledge graph. This is something that we are trying to do right now because we see this as a blue sky area. If you're interested in learning more about knowledge graphs, there are numerous surveys, some of which are very field specific. Here are 2 books that I myself have published on domain specific knowledge graph construction and a textbook on knowledge graphs from MIT Press that goes from beginning to end in this area. So I highly recommend the textbook because it will take you all the way from the beginning to the end to advanced topics. With that, I will stop for questions and discussion, and thank you for attending the session and the talk.